Remember 2019, like yesterday, I was in my coach's office. I was a coach boss. We were organizing trainings for personal development trainings called the Just Clarity Clinic. And in 2019, we had done this training for close to 2 years, and we were reviewing what the work has been like over the last 2 years. The result was disappointing. Every month we were showing up, doing the hard work, putting in the effort, convincing ourselves that we're making life better for people. All they were required to do was to pay 5,000 naira. We could not get 5 people to pay 5,000 naira for almost 2 years. Now, here's the context, in case you don't get it. I finished university in 2015 as a law student. Went to the law school in 2016, wrote my bar exams, passed and got called to bar. In 2017, I went for youth service, finished youth service. 4 years after school, I had no accommodation, I had no savings, and life was looking downward. In fact, the person I was squatting with, my senior colleague whom I was squatting with in JOS, had told me in that January to get a place of my own. So when I sat across the room that day, I said to my boss something I had never voiced out. I can't do this anymore. I don't think I can take this again. It wasn't like I had a plan. I didn't know what to do. I had not figured out anything. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a plan. And I don't know what was waiting for me if I went back home. But I just wanted to go back to my parents' house. Because when you've tried everything, you've tried all that is possible, you just want to go somewhere that is safe and be embarrassed at peace. But here's where it gets interesting, and something that nobody tells you. Between 2016 and 2019, or between 2015 and 2019 actually, I had done any and everything that you could think about. I sold Gary and it failed. I sold Gary, it failed. I did MLM, multi-level marketing. I sold New Life. It wasn't called New Life, but I sold something like that. I attempted to get a job at a microfinance bank. They were going to pay me 10,000 naira per month. I did Google certifications, and I was going to start training people, on how to use Google tools. It didn't go well. Think about it. There was nothing I didn't try to do, but it didn't work out. So I'd done any and everything apart from do law, which, by the way, I was qualified to do. And so you may be asking yourself, why didn't you do law? Why didn't you go to court? Why didn't you practice law if you are qualified? Because I just didn't see myself doing law. I didn't think I had the strength for litigation with the way the system was. And for corporate law, the city or environment that I was in at that particular point in time didn't permit to do corporate law at the level that maybe a city like Lagos would deploy my skills. So law felt like a door that was closed. It felt like I had no choice, or that was nothing I could use my law qualifications. There was no way I could deploy my legal qualifications in the way I would have loved to deploy it. So I felt lost. Now, fast forward to 2020 and 2022. Between 2020 and 2022, if you remember, it was the peak of what is called a tech boom, what I call the tech boom. Everyone was talking about becoming a tech bro. Learn how to code, learn product design, become a UI UX designer, learn data analytics, learn data analysis. Tech is the next best thing. Everybody was going into tech. If you had a laptop, you needed to learn how to code. But this wasn't me. I didn't feel like I knew how to code, or I wanted to even learn. I didn't feel like I could learn. It felt like it was above me. I'd never been a science student or an engineering student, so it didn't look appealing. It felt like I was going to fall for the pressure. And so I didn't do it. But hey, there's something they say about life. They would say that when a teacher is ready, when a student is ready, the teacher would show up. And the teacher showed up in my case in several ways. One thing began to lead to another from 2022. First, someone reached out to me and says he wants to register an investment company, and then got me on contract to do due diligence for him while he looks for companies to invest in Nigeria. It was bad business, by the way, but story for another day. Remember that my senior, whom I had said, had sent me out of his house, who had told me to get another apartment, actually, 2019, calls me up to begin to ask questions. He had actually gotten into tech. As cybersecurity professional, I was doing cybersecurity and data privacy. And so it was the one who called me to say I should look at this area. In addition to all of the things that happened, he was asking me to look into data analysis, data privacy, cybersecurity, compliance, and to see if there was a way I could deploy my qualification. That's not scripted. This is divine provision. That's how God does his work. When God wants to change your story, he does it and brings people your path and bring people your way to help you get better on the journey. Later, someone calls me to say that there was an opening for a volunteer role at the MDI I served, back in 2016 or 2017, called the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. It was a humbling role, but I took it nonetheless because it allowed me deploy law. I was getting rusty, so it allowed me engage my legal qualifications. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then within that period, small tech-powered businesses began to spring up in Jos, and they needed they were asking me questions about how they could set up their business and possibly, have me work with them on a contract basis. So I was freelancing as a lawyer, and I decided to start positioning myself as a tech lawyer. Then at the beginning of 2024, my in-law says that if I would like to work at a fintech company, if I had any financial experience, or I'd worked in a fintech, graciously had the reason of mind to lean on my experience with the guy who registered the investment company. And I said, yeah. So I brushed up my CV and sent it to him. And so I used that experience, to get an interview. And I got a job. At the end of the day, by June 2024, I started working by July, August 2024, I started working as a compliance officer at a VASP in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, that's my story. Or where was I coming? Or where am I coming from? 8 years of my life felt like a waste at some point. All the pain, all the mistakes, all the shame I felt, it was not a waste. I was learning things. Life was preparing me for opportunities. I was getting clarity. I was refining and redesigning. I was refining my story in a way that is very, very compelling. And maybe you know someone who is in that same position right now, who feels lost, who feels like everyone is getting ahead in life but them. I think you need to share this with them, or I believe you should share this with them. And if you are that person, then you should follow this series. It's called How I Broke Into Compliance. Maybe a better title, but hey, for all it is worth, please, for all that it is worth, please follow, like, and subscribe. Let's build a community of people. Let's push ourselves. I'm going to be showing you in the next episodes how to get into regulatory compliance, right? Regulatory compliance, and what you need to do, what courses you need to take, what materials are available, and you would also see that your qualifications were not a waste. Your experience in any walk of life, and essentially any qualification you have from school, you would find it useful as a compliance professional. I'm Dr. Bye for now. See you next time.